Okay, that worked. Okay, I think this is working. Is the live? Somebody's watching. Please type in the chat if you can hear me fine. How well you can hear me. That would be very helpful. I'm here loud and clear. Excellent. Excellent. We'll be starting in 1 minute. We'll say a prayer and we will begin. I'm talking to these people. What's that? What? She's not coming? Everybody's sick, man. That's true. All right. As you can see, I had grand expectations for the attendance. I don't know. You should shame them. Everyone should shame all of their friends that didn't come or aren't on the live stream. It is, actually. This is being recorded for all of eternity. What's that? I don't know. I've been posting about this I've been posting about it for like 3 weeks and announcing it and I told people at the cathedral, I told people at Holy Transfiguration, I told people at St. Juvenale's. It's not my fault. I take no responsibility. Yeah, they're coming. So yes, so, and I think even in quite a few of the bulletins, it was in the bulletin for Holy Transfiguration and for St. Herman's, I think for the cathedral as well. So, but it was in the week before's. But somebody said all of the young people with kids, nobody reads the bulletin. So, okay, let's begin with a prayer. O heavenly King, the Comforter, the Spirit of truth, who art everywhere and fillest all things, treasury of blessings, and giver of life, come and abide in us, and cleanse us from every impurity, and save our souls, O good one. Welcome, please be seated. For those in attendance in person, we do have some refreshments, and there's pizza that is walking in right now. I had other plans for refreshments, but then I punctured one of my tires. So that changed, changed my plans for the day. So, thank you, sir. So I am calling this meeting because we've had some talk over the last year or years, I know in the different communities about the possibility of having a school, an Orthodox school, whatnot, school endeavors, and I would like to get together for, do you need something from me? Thank you, sir. Signature, there we go, sorry. Whoopsie. Oh my goodness, what is going on? There we go. Okay, I think that goes. Thank you, sir.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. As I was saying, we're discussing. I'm hoping to see what kind of motivation, what people's expectations are, what people's desires are, what people's intentions are for these different endeavors. So I had planned to talk a little bit about these conferences that I'd gone to and about what opportunities they present. And then I was hoping to kind of have a discussion, actually, a bit of a Socratic discussion about education in general and what people are thinking going forward. So, does that sound good? Okay, thank you. Should we say a quick blessing of the food? And as I'm presenting this, and everyone is more than welcome to get a little refreshments. Does that sound good? Okay. O Christ God, bless the food and drink of thy servants, thou art good and holy unto the ages of ages. Amen. We already sang a prayer, so we'll keep it short. So, both of these conferences that I went to, one was put on by an organization called the Society for Classical Learning, and its theme was overflowing generosity, which more or less my interpretation was money, which I thought was a great topic for schools. So it was very it was excellent. I met quite a few Orthodox educators, people that were involved in what's called the classical Christian movement or classical Christian education movement. There's a number of heads of schools, and then some people that were part of like the. There's a gentleman, Chris Perrin, who's fairly well known in this movement, who is the CEO of Classical Academic Press, which is one of the biggest presses for educational materials, particularly in the classical Christian movement. And the second conference was put on by the Association for Classical and Christian Schools. Also very, very interesting. I went mostly to all of the lectures or sessions on starting schools, board, fundraising, stuff like that. And it was very informative. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what the classical Christian movement is. Who is familiar with the classical Christian movement? Classical Christian education? Just one. Maybe in the comments if anyone is familiar with it. You can say me. So that was my feeling as well, that most people that are interested in opening a school up here probably aren't necessarily really familiar with the classical Christian movement. But I think it will be a great resource for us because it's a very, very well-developed curriculum and model and philosophy and tradition and whatnot, right? So, the classical Christian movement is kind of a readoption of the classical education method, which is based off of the classical liberal arts. Who's familiar with the liberal arts? How many liberal arts are there? Aha! So there's seven. There's seven liberal arts. Three are the three. It's called the trivium and the quadrivium, like the three-pronged way and the four-pronged way, and those are the seven liberal arts. The three is grammar, logic, rhetoric, and the four is arithmetic, music, geometry, and what did I say? Arithmetic, music, geometry, and oh my goodness, that's another M. Arithmetic, geometry. I did, yeah. I knew it a week ago. I'm pretty sure, yeah. Music. Oh, Chris Perrin would be ashamed of me. Anyway, the three, grammar, logic, and rhetoric, are obviously much more they're kind of the structure which most schools, even historically, are based on. It's actually still, you can actually still see it in our school systems, even the public school systems now, because we call primary schools grammar schools, right? It's the first stage of education is grammar, right? Learning to use words, formulate. Well, okay, it used to be. It's still in the language. I mean, maybe it's not very well executed, but it's still, you can still see that this tradition of the classical method was the foundation even of our terrible, poor, ruined, public school system. And then the second stage is logic, where you begin to learn to formulate thoughts in a argumentative way, not necessarily in a combative way, but and then the rhetoric is the final stage when you begin, or when you learn to formulate your speech in a persuasive way, right? Not just arguments for or against, but now you're learning to be persuasive, right? And you can kind of see this three-stage system in that we have elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools, right? And more or less, the grades in those schools, even today, correspond to what the schools use each of these stages, right? So grammar was first to kindergarten to fifth grade, more or less, or fourth grade, and then fifth to eighth is about the 4 years of logic, and then you have high school where you have the rhetoric, right? So again, it's not very well executed, of course. Now, how many high school students can present themselves persuasively with a formulated argument? But still, right? So this is kind of the foundation, the structure, which the schools used to be structured. The structure which they used to be structured by. That's very persuasive, right? Okay. Oh, now I'm getting, okay. And so then you had the four other liberal arts, right, that actually were kind of put into each one of those stages, and they were repeated at a different kind of level, you could say, right? So of course, you had arithmetic and music and geometry and astronomy. That's it. Haha, got it. So those were the classical liberal arts, and then of course you had all of the our common contemporary sciences and subjects more or less fit into those very well, right? History, physics, biology, all of them again were seated in one of those arts, right? And so you would have a study of each one of those, in the grammar stage, and then a study of them again, but on a higher level in the logic stage, and then another one in the rhetoric stage, right? So let's see. Okay, I'm checking the chat. So, as I was saying, I don't think that most people here, as we can see, aren't necessarily even very familiar. I wasn't actually either familiar with the classical movement or with these liberal arts, the liberal arts tradition, before about a month ago. And I don't think most people that are interested in an Orthodox school endeavor are doing it primarily to have their kids educated in a classical method. But as I'm saying, I think it's a structure that is extremely well developed and has a great tradition that I think is really, there's no reason why we shouldn't just adopt it, right? So that's kind of where these conferences and all of their materials fit in. So moving on to, this is the organization of the first conference that I went to. It's called the Society for Classical Learning. This is their playbook for accreditation. Both of these organizations that put on these conferences are accrediting organizations as well. Not that accreditation is necessarily a requirement, of course, right, for a school, but it's, as I was talking with someone last week, the guidelines for accreditation for this organization are still excellent, even if we don't pursue accreditation with them. So I'll read a couple of them off. Where did they go? What is it? Okay, let's see here. Oh no. 3, 2, 1, 2. Okay, there's 2. 1's right. Okay. So the first indicator of a school that is meeting the standards of this organization for accreditation is articulating the purpose of education as conforming the soul to reality. What does that mean? Let's read. The soul to reality. S-O-U-L, to reality. So, thriving classical Christian schools understand and articulate the purpose of education as forming students according to reality. What reality as manifest in truth, goodness, and beauty, embodied in Christ. Right. Seems like a fairly good standard. The second indicator is cultivating wisdom and virtue by restoring the image of God. Thriving classical Christian schools understand and articulate a student's need for learning in terms of restoring the image of God in students by cultivating wisdom and virtue. They have 10 indicators. More or less all of them are along those lines, right? So number 3 is adapting learning to the nature of the student. Train students according to their nature, which is a fusion of body and soul, with soul being composed of mind, will, and affections. It's so funny because these Protestant organizations are really just, they're like reverting back to a patristic understanding of everything, but they don't want to admit it. So like one of the talks that I went to at the second conference, which the organization is much more overtly a Reformationist Protestant, ACCS is, are you familiar with ACCS? It's very overtly a Protestant group. And one of the talks was about how we should have parochial schools, right? So schools connected with parishes. And I don't think the guy was Anglican, but maybe he was Presbyterian. But he had a collar and whatnot. And he was talking basically like his entire thing was about like, well, I think the model that we should use is what monasteries used to be. And then he literally says, but we don't want people to become monks. Right? We don't want them, we want them to get married and have families and raise God-fearing children and whatnot. And I was like, I'm wearing my cassock with my cross. And I was like, I really wanted to be like, what's wrong with monks? Pretty sure Paul says in one of his epistles, like, I want everyone to be like me. And I'm pretty sure he was talking about celibacy, Anyway, so they're like, so I was, the statement here, though, of like the soul being composed of mind, will, and affections, that's literally like it is a classical philosophical structuring as well, but it's patristic, right? I mean, the fathers speak about those 3 elements of the soul and how they've been disorganized by the fall, and so now we are ruled rather by the affections rather than by the will or even the mind, right? Our rational mind has been supplanted by the affections, right? And funnily enough, never mind. Yeah, sorry, never mind. Okay. We'll not go into that. So rooting, anyway, the 4th indicator is rooting the curriculum in the full liberal arts tradition, which is what, they've kind of, what we just talked about. The indicator 5 is emphasizing apprenticeship as a form of teaching. Teachers model the pursuit of wisdom and virtue, the exercise of skill in the liberal arts, and the deep and radiant love of learning, which, while giving constant attention to the skills, habits, beliefs, and loves of their students. Now, all of these indicators are very abstract, right, in a certain sense, because necessarily, please, if everyone, God bless that man for being the first one to eat some pizza. Absolutely, God bless you. That's what it's there for. So, if anyone's at home and they want to come, there is pizza here. So, free pizza. That always seems to, it works for Sunday school. But they also have evidences here, right, in their playbook for each one of their indicators, right? So it's abstract, but they have clearly defined kind of things that they're looking for, specific things that they're looking for, right? Or evidences that they're looking for. Faculty-student relationships are marked by mutual respect, shared intellectual endeavor, and moral encouragement. I suppose that's also a little bit abstract, but it's still a little bit more defined than the indicator was. Students can point to examples of teachers who model integrity, enthusiasm of learning, and care for their growth, whatnot. So, number 6 is didactic and dialectic instruction. Who knows the difference between what didactic and dialectic is? I had to look it up. So dialectic is dialogue, right? It says the same structure so it's a participation in Socratic kind of discussions. And didactic is like, I think, didactic is kind of more, oh.
It's like the upper grades, middle school kind of age, you're in that kind of mode of learning, taking the information, and then once they master that.
Isn't it like being like physical participation though? Isn't it kind of, or is that, oh no, that's, okay. Well, I guess my looking it up didn't help. So, let's see, where were we going with this? So I wanted to ask, we had with a number of people, we have kind of formulated a mission statement for an education endeavor. But I wanted to kind of pick your guys' brains of what you think the mission of Orthodox education should be, or our schools should be. Any thoughts? Chat?
Well, I have a question.
Yes. Question.
So, is this what we're going to adopt as a curriculum?
I don't know. Oh, so curriculum. Like these organizations don't mandate a curriculum, specific curriculum. You again, like the indicators are fairly abstract. Now they do have partners that they have that are like testing bodies. There's a test that's called like the classical learning test or something like that. That's like an equivalent, or supposed to kind of be not an equivalent, but a alternative to like the SAT, ACT test. That's more constructive than just a lot of teaching right now, of course, in schools is test-based, right? You're like, I remember even when I was in school, we spent in certain subjects, we spent the entire year for the grades that we had, the state tests, we just spent the entire year studying, like learning, taking practice, questions for that test, which is extremely unproductive for, like cultivating wisdom and virtue in our students, right?
For me, like the basis of this is what are we going to teach our children and from what age?
So I think before we even get to that, though, you have to what's the purpose of teaching them in the first place? What are we supposed to teach them?
Yeah.
Right.
So that's why I'm wondering, like, are you wanting us to tell
truth?
You
Yes.
what we thought?
Yes.
Okay.
I want to be Socratic in our discussion.
I just want to.
Yeah. Yes.
I like what Father Roman Braga says. He has a beautiful YouTube interview, and he talks about education, and he said to educate your children in a Christian vision, and then they will know what to do. And this is the goodness, beauty, truth approach of made in the image of Christ. And that's the foundation of it all.
Christian vision, yeah.
We need to change the vision and go inside this inner universe where God is, and we need to explore.
Yeah. Any other thoughts? I think I had asked this if anybody filled out the survey last year. So one of these was kind of one of the questions about, what is your goal? What is your goal in educating your children in in an Orthodox kind of? Any other thoughts? We kind of formulated it similar. I'd say fairly similarly, but a lot of these mission statements for these classical Christian schools, first of all, quite a few of them don't even have Christ in their statements, which seems like kind of a bit inappropriate, right? If you're a Christian school, otherwise like Christian, but like the term like Christian comes from Christ, right? So, and a lot of them will talk about like truth, goodness, and beauty, right? But I think we formulated our statement as we're trying to cultivate a love of Christ in our children through their education. And basically after that, whatever we say really is kind of just details, right? It's like, okay, how we do it, what curriculum we use, it's all really details, right? It's like, okay, so we could say cultivating a love of Christ using the classical liberal arts tradition, and that cultivates, or that emphasizes truth, goodness, and beauty, and and whatnot. But I think cultivating a love of Christ is really the key, right? And this was something I asked a lot of people, like what would differentiate an Orthodox school from any other just classical Christian school? Like, what is the difference between the way we would, some people say like, oh, well, we do our Orthodox prayers. One of the guys had said like, well, we emphasize the patristic tradition that they skip over, right? The whole Middle Ages and all of the patristic fathers in the East that, is kind of ignored in the Western canon. But I think there's an issue with that because a lot of Protestants are now actually going back to the patristic fathers and, now using St. John Chrysostom, St. Basil, St. John Damascene, St. Ephraim, the Syrian. And so they are using them, but there's kind of like the same problem with the scriptures where they just kind of pick and choose what they, so I don't think that really answers it either. It's like, it's not that we just need to read the fathers. Is there any thoughts on that also? Like, what would differentiate an Orthodox education from just a standard classical Christian education? The chat is very quiet.
It would be more balanced.
In what way?
Well, in not just focusing on the West, but also focusing on the East.
Yeah, but I don't think that. But
in
if
our schools, we didn't learn very much about Eastern history, Eastern religion. And Eastern religion, I don't mean things like Buddhism and Hinduism.
Sure. Eastern Christianity, yeah.
It's totally neglected. And I think still, when I read articles in Christian magazines, that are Protestant and Catholic based, they just have this blinder on about the richness of the East. So that's why I'm talking about being more balanced.
I think the blinders come from a specific relation to the authors of those works. So okay, I'll just say, like, what I kind of came to in these conversations with people is I think the veneration of the saints is what separates an Orthodox education from any other classical Christian education. Because like we don't just read these people's,
Except the Catholics don't.
Yeah, but I think even the Catholics don't have as strong of a veneration of the saints as we do in the Orthodox tradition.
It's different. That's true. Yeah. So it's more.
It's a spiritual vision to conform them to be convicted about that invisible world married with the visible that we believe as Orthodox.
Yeah. Well, I think so. Like, even if we go to like what is the patristic understanding of education, right? Of Christian education, right? Like whenever the fathers are asked, like, what should I read? What should I learn? Right? Like from like the very early centuries all the way through our time, they always say, read the gospel and the lives of the saints, right? And the lives of the saints make sense because it's just the gospel in action, right? It's the saints are fulfilling the gospel commandments in their lives, and so we're kind of getting a different lens on the gospel through the lives of the saints. And that's also, I think, why they're very effective educational tools. I think the lives of the saints, not just as literature, but actually as something that this is a veneration of sorry, there's more to than just reading this as an instructive piece of literature, right? This is somebody who is a saint who we're asking intercession from, and so there's a higher degree of relation with with the saints and the authors of these works, right? Somebody in the chat said an active life in the church. The only reason I think that's a difficult thing to have to embody or to, so it's like, okay, the sacraments, right? The sacramental life. Okay, we'll have liturgies that'll be, part of the school year and whatnot, and we'll be trying to cultivate an active participation in the sacraments for our children. But I think the issue with that is there's only a period of time that you can, like, okay, how do you do that, right? How would you, like, how do you cultivate, your children to act, like, willingly of their own volition participate in the sacraments? Yes. Do you have an answer? I don't.
I don't have an answer. I just have some of the Orthodox schools that we visited really have unique routines.
Yeah.
For example, one of the schools near St. Anthony's Monastery, they have all the children bring their prayer ropes early in the morning, little Tupperwares, and they start the morning off by just doing Jesus prayers for a while.
Yeah.
And then they have their chant classes, et cetera, et cetera. So they incorporate sort of the inner life of Orthodox right away from a very young age. Another Orthodox school that we visited in Chicago area has the children doing weekday liturgies for feast days, and they have an entire children's choir, and the children are the only ones chanting the services, which is extremely impressive, like 30, 40, 70 kids, coming in, different grades. They all participate, and the priest is the principal of that school. So he can say, okay, today is Saint, whoever day, and we're going to be doing the liturgy. And so they start their school morning by actually being in church and doing that, and then going to their classes. One of the Orthodox schools on the East Coast does about 30 minutes of morning prayers, and the kids have multiple prayers memorized and an entire prayer routine before they even start school. So I think there's some very unique approaches to incorporating the divine services and the life of the church very uniquely within the life of the school, and I think they can be intricately tied.
Absolutely,
Bringing children up, not just coming to church on Sunday, but it's like prayer is part of the routine, and it's so intricately meshed with school. It's not even. It's secondary to a child. They're just so used to it already.
I 100% think that these services. Well, and I think the school year should be based around the liturgical year of the liturgical year, right? The feast days, for sure. No, I didn't. If me saying I didn't mean to. 100%, I think the prayer and the liturgical life of the church has to be an essential element of the education. But I think that's an obvious one. I didn't mean to say that that's not an important part, if that came across that way. So no, 100%. I think the services and whatnot. I do think you have to be very purposeful about the way you do that, so that it doesn't become so that it's it's a living kind of thing, right? It's not forced, I suppose, and so I'm very encouraged to hear that there are places that do that, and that there's a positive kind of response. I would love to have a 70-person children's choir for the.
Kids probably don't like it, but it is part of school, and it's part of their routine, so they have to participate.
Yeah.
And I think that by doing it enough, they're actually extracting something from that they will take into their adult life. Formed at a young age, even if they're dragging their
forced into it. Yeah. Well, so the only thing though I think that has to be said about that is whatever part of the spiritual life is being cultivated in the school, it can't start and end at school, right? It has to be, what's that word? Echoed, that's not the right word I'm looking for, but it has to be continued and began at home, right? So, that if otherwise then it really does just become another part of like an ethnic part of school or something like that, right? It has to be cultivated also in the home, right?
That's why parent education will be so important and a piece of that.
Yeah.
Because it is about a living experience of creating these rituals and rhythms that the children can just breathe into and experience. And this is what's forming their mind and their will and their affections.
Yeah.
And that's the essence of it. And then all the other, liberal arts is fuller and more beautiful because of that piece.
And that's why I formulate, well, we formulated it that way, that I think the primary mission of education is to cultivate a love of Christ. So I had these three quotes that I really like. And so one of them is, of course, beauty will save the world, right? Dostoevsky's quoted in one of his books. He writes, somebody says like, "Oh, beauty will save the world," right? And Solzhenitsyn, in his Nobel laureate acceptance speech, says at the end, he quotes this thing in Dostoevsky, and then he says at the end of his first paragraph, he's like, "But when in the bloodthirsty history of man has beauty saved anybody from anything?" Right? It's a great question. And then he spends the rest of his speech, kind of formulating this beautiful presentation of why beauty really will save the world. And then, but separate of that, and it's a stunning, kind of thesis. But beauty, somebody else said that beauty is the manifestation of truth in material things, and I think that's true of anything in the created world, right? It can be music, it can be anything that's created if it's beautiful, it's a manifestation of truth, and that's true because Christ himself says that I am the life, the way, and the truth, right? So beauty is really just the manifestation of Christ in creation, and that means Christ will save the world, right? So it all works very well. So, seated in that, I think then you can take all of the liberal arts or anything that anybody learns that is worth learning, and it all is reconcilable to Orthodox education, right? Because if you're learning about anything that is beautiful or true or good, whether it's math or sciences or literature or history or whatever, it all actually does come back to a relation to Christ, right? Or Christ's work in the world. I mean, so one of the guys, I don't know if it's worth going into this, but so you can tell me if it's just this is like too much, but one of the guys who is Orthodox, who runs Circe Institute, which is another really big institute for teaching, training teachers in the classical Christian kind of method. But this organization apparently in the last 10 years is all of the staff have mostly become Orthodox, and they do these supras all the time, I guess, that are super, super successful. Or they're very, they have just an incredible response to them, to these supra. Supra is this Georgian kind of banquet meal, Georgian as in the Republic of Georgia. Anyway, it's kind of beside the point. This guy is kind of a philosopher of education and whatnot, and so he had this thought process about Christ is the Logos, right? He's the Word of God. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word, right? And nothing was made that was made without the Word, which is the Son of God, the second person of the Trinity, which is Christ, right? As the incarnate Son of God. And he has this whole thing about the cosmologos as Oh, it's above my head too. Now my brain's hurting already trying to explain this. Okay, he gets to analogy, right? Analogos, which is, ana is in the Greek is something that raises up. It's a preposition to kind of pointing up, and logos, right? The word. So it's something that, an analogy is something that points kind of upwards to something, right? Oh man, I'm ruining this. He had this beautiful way of dialectic and dialogue. Oh, I ruined it. I ruined this whole thing. It was so beautiful the way he explained it to me. And I even have the sheet that he wrote. I took it. Anyway, I think basically, if I remember right, he was saying that analogy basically is our way we interact with the world, right? Because if everything is made by the logos, then everything has some kind of energy, maybe if we want to be theological about it, of Christ in it, having been made by the Word, let alone man who is made in the image of God. And so each one of us maybe that's what he was saying, is each one of us is okay, that's what he's saying, is the cosmologos is really a expression or a manifestation to whatever extent it is possible of the logos, right, the Son of God. And then we get all the way down to the logoi of the liberal arts, which are the qualitative liberal arts are like the grammar, logic, rhetoric, and quantitative are the astronomy, arithmetic, music, and geometry. I'm sorry, I lost, is anyone still following me?
Logos is everywhere.
It is. It really is. Okay, that's the key. The logos is everywhere. And that's what we're trying to cultivate, is a love of the logos. So, how are we going to do it? We have, I think, a lot of people that are very, 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 very interested, very, very invested in educating their children. Obviously, we have lots of young families in our church, in our neighboring churches, in our Anchorage Bowl area. There are a lot of people that are really interested and invested in wanting to teach their children to love Christ, and also give them a good education to be successful in life, I suppose, as a secondary goal, right? So now the question in front of us is how shall we go about doing that, right? Any thoughts?
So you're talking about more than...
Now the actual structure, where I'm kind of trying to transition now to the actual practical issue, or the practical questions of, lots of people are homeschooling or wanting to homeschool. My feeling is most people are wanting to homeschool to avoid public school, more so. What do they call it? Reluctant. They're reluctant homeschoolers, right? Where it's like, well, I'm not like diehard homeschooler, but it's like I don't have any other alternative choices, so I kind of have to. Does that sound about right? Or is there people that are just like diehard homeschoolers?
No, I mean, at this time, like, I'm sure other families, we can't even homeschool, who's working.
Yeah.
There's no way, we have to be
Right.
public. And so the only way for me that I see as of now is to be part of their school and education and becoming a teacher, even though it would be homeschool. And for me, I could do that. I have a bachelor's of liberal arts. Oh, well, I didn't even know what liberal arts was. It's just in English, okay? I learned something today. So for me, that's something I think about. It's like, if I can't homeschool them, what can I do?
Yeah.
Yeah, I recently just took my kids to public school. Like, this is our second time homeschooling, and I keep going back and forth because
It's really-
better opportunities for them in public school.
Yeah.
And those opportunities are being taken away from them. So I feel.
Were they in Campbell?
No.
Oh,
Well, that's part of it though, because of the closures of the schools.
Right.
Pushing all the kids in our neighborhood schools, and that means bigger classes, and the classes are already big. So
Right.
my kid was struggling with some stuff that you would think that were really common, but ask her to multiply and subtract all day long, she would do it.
right.
But she doesn't know what today and tomorrow is. I mean, those are the kinds of things that I know.
Sure, sure.
And it's because they focus on how their testing is gonna be for the monies for months. I
Yeah.
hate to say that, but it's very, very true. And it's
You shouldn't hate to say it. It's 100% true.
It just
And
makes me
it's-
sad.
it's
I would
terrible.
Yeah, I would love for them to have a well-rounded education, but now I'm filling in the gaps as a full-time mom
Yeah.
to help them thrive in homeschool, because I feel like in our family, it's much more beneficial. And for me as a parent, I've always wanted to implicate God in there somehow, but I'm also in what's called a public homeschool, right? I have monies coming from a school district, but everything that I buy has to be separate.
Yeah, yeah, that's a one, yeah,
So there's that aspect of things that
yeah,
I know Alaska is one of the easiest states to homeschool. If you want to be an independent homeschooler, you got it. This is the golden state for that. And I learned that through my homeschool experience.
yeah.
But I also know homeschooling is very expensive.
It is
And
expensive.
it doesn't matter what curriculum, there's lots of other resources now, but a lot of them are secular. And I, as a parent wanting a well-rounded, God has to be in the kid.
Yeah,
So I know for sure, where was I going with that? Sorry. I know for sure that I know that there's gaps still in my children's education that I haven't been able to give them because it's not offered to them in the public school system. So me as a parent, I had a hard time looking for Eastern Orthodox curriculum. I really have. And that's one of my reasons of like coming here is because I want it to be centered with what I believe in, which is, because there's plenty of Protestant, there really is.
yeah,
But it's really hard to get my hands on something that's Eastern Orthodox. And just letting you guys know about my family, I'm a convert, my 3 girls are converts, my husband is a Credo Orthodox, so I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly learning, and me as a parent, I would love to know more by the community. Not, and I'm not saying it's not enough, but it's different going to liturgy every Sunday or every time I can go versus sitting down and talking to my children about what we believe in a way that it's nurturing, in a way that it's understanding. When they're asking questions in the middle of liturgy, I can't really answer those questions.
yeah.
So,
Well, yeah. Any other
I
thoughts?
have a lot to think about.
Yeah, yeah. It's, any other thoughts? About, I'm mostly, what's that? No, it's good. It's good. I mean, any input's good. I'm looking for input. So, it's kind of like we got to, if we're going to do something, we have to kind of figure out a direction that we're going, right? Whether it's we're going to be doing mostly, if people are mostly interested in just being like having a support network for doing homeschooling, if it's more like, no, we'd be more invested in really trying to, develop a full-time school. Everything is possible. It just takes people that are in, that are with, whatever people are kind of motivated and invested in all ways in.
I'm speaking from experience. Our children are 27 and 29 now. I've been teaching preschool and kindergarten and in and out of private schools and different things for my entire adult life. I'm 58 years old. I've had a lot of experience with online schools, private schools, public schools, Christian schools, and I think what you really need, you have to get some momentum going, and you have to have a solid core group and some parents that are really committed. There has to be, one very strong leader who really understands what the mission is going to be, and you need to get some people to rally around that are willing to invest their time and energy and potentially, some kind of board. People that are really committed to the vision and the mission. And it's often starting with a kindergarten group, or that kind of age, and doing something kind of semi-formal, just to kind of get the movement going and to get it, to grow. It's a good place to start with a foundation. But it's just speaking from my experience. I've been involved in different schools starting. Of course, we have a new classical education school starting in Anchorage called Thomas More. But it's not, it's not this vision.
I thought they had, again, like as an alternative, they had a great program, but I was underwhelmed by their kind of it as a Christian school.
A good resource is, I don't know if anyone's familiar with Dr. James Taylor, wonderful man, memory eternal. He passed a few years ago, but he spearheaded the online St. Raphael Orthodox.
Is that Scolaire Academy?
Yeah.
I literally just pulled that up, actually. So I was going to show.
It used to be St. Raphael, and now it came under this other more kind of classical education.
What's up there?
St. Raphael is now within the Academy. They are offering a lot of parent education on what classical education is, so if you're interested in learning.
Okay, let me try to show this. I can go in, like I kind of was looking more so for kind of our initial kind of where we're headed. I mean, I can go into resources that are available, which this is a great one, which you were just talking about, is so Classical Academic Press bought or somehow got connected. I don't know if they probably didn't buy it, but they kind of took under their wing St. Raphael School. So Classical Academic Press, the CEO of this company is Orthodox, and they really are. Again, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's like an Eastern Orthodox curriculum, but their curriculum. So their history course. It looks great. I mean, the only criticism I had of it was the translations they use of the fathers are a bit outdated. But they literally had their history course for like the medieval ages. One of the books was literally just excerpts from the fathers. All the different fathers, and they had like a little history about their life, and then like an excerpt from one of their works. It was great. It looks great. So Classical Academic Press is a great resource, and I actually am pretty sure that the state allocation you are able to use it for their materials.
Actually, this is familiar to me in the sense of the structure, because I know that you would be adopting from them and implementing into the school.
Yeah.
And that was from K through 12. And that really worked. I went to a private school in the church that I came from and grew up in. And we had a school, and it was K through 12, and that's where we got our credentials from when we graduated from there, was from wherever the resources were coming from. That was
Right. So
I'm familiar with that structure, and that actually really helps with families needing a full-time school, and they have the option of saying, here's tuition money, and we'll bring the kids home, learn at home, come into school and do like the testing part of it, because that's what was.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it opens the doors for those two ways. In other words, is what I'm trying to say. So that's.
I'm not sure about, so St. Raphael School is the Orthodox, so the Scolaire Academy is the kind of the overall branch, or their online homeschooling support classes, educational portal of Classical Academic Press, and they have a Protestant way of their houses, they call them. So they have the Aquinas house that's kind of geared towards Catholics. They have the Canterbury geared towards Anglicans, and then they have the St. Raphael School, which is Orthodox. And so the way this works is they have online classes however many times a week. I think most of them are East Coast time, so I don't know how that would actually work out. But I think they do have, evening classes there, which would be midday for us. And they have, they have a bunch of different classes that you can pick from and sign your kids up for. And they have, again, they have different, I don't know exactly how the tuition works for it and whatnot, but it's very reasonably, priced for what they're offering. And so you get kids from all of the states that are having in one classroom, and their classroom sizes it's not like hundreds of kids. I think they're fairly limited to like 20 kids per class. So like this would be a great resource, for homeschooling, even to start, as kind of a base. So anyway, there are some, let's see. There actually are quite a bit of resources available. I think there's one other curriculum press that, what is it called? Anyway, there's a bunch of curriculums and publishing houses for, educational materials that, are very compatible, you could say, with our worldview. But again, I don't know how successful I'm being at this, but I'm trying to get input from people mostly on what people's ideal vision, I suppose you could say, for this project, what it would be, right? Is it like, are we wanting, okay, so like my vision, let me just say what I think is possible right now, and we really could go any way with it, is we can start with these facilities. We have, 3 classrooms and a 4th hall. We have a kitchen. We can start whatever we want to start here at the Trapeza, and we can accommodate up to like 50 kids probably. And initially it would just be like K to 4th, K to 5th grade, right? Because I think we'd have the most kids in that age that you can accommodate classes for and teachers for, with the least stress. Everyone says high school is just a nightmare. And then I could also just be selfish and say, like, and my kids are in that age group. So we can start, with like a couple times a week. We can have very limited classes. We could use, try to have a group set up with St. Raphael's School specifically for our, 15, 20 kids, whatever it is, for X amount of classes, whichever ones we agree on or people want to sign up for. And we could do that, and that can either be something that could be developed into just a really robust homeschool program, or that could be developed into kind of eventually a full-time 5-day-a-week school with, third-party kind of outsourced everything, private school, right? Probably wouldn't be able to keep it at the Trapeza forever, but that's like, there's different ways of doing it. There's also like I think the kind of the middle ground of like the homeschool and the full-time, full-time private school models is, it's called like a university model or a collaborative model, where you have a curriculum that is set, or that is set by the school, but it's done, 2 or 3 days a week where you have classes, and then the parents basically become the teachers for, the other days of the week at home. So it's like a collaborative model. I suppose it's kind of what I described in the first place, but I think it is pretty much everyone that I talked to, during this trip, was very clear on like whatever path you take, you have to be very clear from the beginning what your intention is. Now things will change, or things may change depending on how things go, but you really have to have people's kind of what people are investing in, or what people are envisioning kind of investing in. Mostly I mean in the sense of like what you are wanting to, what your vision is to where you want to be, if, let's say 5 years from now or 10 years from now, you know, which for a lot of us will be like basically what we're envisioning for the education of all of our children, right? Because a lot of people's kids are like just entering kindergarten or first grade, right? So this is kind of like, what is your vision for how you want to have your kids educated for their entire, you know, primary, secondary education? And if it's going to be whichever model you choose, you really have to stick with it, because there's everyone was saying like you can't switch from a homeschool program to a private school. You basically have to completely relaunch everything, just because of the methodology, the, you know, what everyone is kind of invested in, what everyone gets used to doing, you know. So that's what I'm trying to probe, what people are kind of, and it does. I mean, maybe people right now don't have. I should probably go back to the chat. Where's the chat?
So you don't want to do the come approach, you want to find out.
Well, and so what I'm saying is if maybe people right now, maybe it's just good for people to think about it, and maybe we should have a meeting, you know, a month from now or whatever, however much time from now, when we can get, you know, people's input. I was planning on having this survey done again, but then my tire got punctured. It's a great excuse for everything. Everything I didn't get done. Because I had to repair my tire today.
He was gonna do it today, he was gonna do it today.
Don't take my excuse away from me. It threw chaos into my day.
Just read it out, you put some rubber.
I did. I had to go get the patch kit though, and then I tried doing it in the Lowe's parking lot, and it didn't work, and it kept leaking. And so anyway, it was a whole deal. Yes. I apologize. We can still do the survey. I just was hoping to have it so people could take it right now, but. What I'm saying is maybe it's like something people haven't thought about, and so people need time to think about it. But I do think it's really important for us to kind of establish a common vision for what we want to pursue. Because even like for fundraising, no matter what we do, there probably will have to be some kind of tuition. Yes.
Well, can people use their homeschool funds?
Yeah, so there's a guy that we've been talking to, okay, fine, I won't use the royal we, I've been talking to, that, you know, you always say we, that we're doing, so it makes it sound like you have a team behind you, you know? Actually, there's two guys that have worked with in the state, one of them's Tim Scott, I think some of you are familiar with him, and then there's another guy, Jesse, don't remember his last name, who said that both of them said that there are plenty of ways you can structure your organization to receive the state allocation, whatever part of it, with a partnership with the homeschool, right? That's like $2,800, you know, generally at the most you can get out of the most, right? Yeah.
If you do it that way, you'd have to start with a homeschool.
No, so
Vision rather than
I think
private school.
most of the private schools have partnerships with the homeschool. There's something that like the governor was doing where you can get it.
You can find a way to use the homeschool.
Yep. Where like basically I think the school becomes a vendor that then you sign up with the homeschool partnership. Anyway, I think it becomes like a pass through for the, anyway.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that Holy Rosary does that for sure. I'm not pretty sure actually, I'm 100% sure they do it. And then I think so, like even the German school, the other charter schools, they also do it. So, but all of them also still have tuition. So like even after the state allocation, there's still some. So because, but besides that, like that's beyond, like I don't really think there's any need to discuss that. Like whatever the case, we're gonna have to be doing fundraising for this, right? And however we do that, like it really does depend, is like, are we presenting it as like, well, this is a homeschool partnership that we're trying to develop and get resources and, you know, yada, 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 or is it like, no, we're trying to, you know, develop a full-time school and pay for, you know, full-time teachers and, you know, eventually develop a campus and yada, 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 right? Yes?
I kind of agree with Valerie on the gain momentum idea. idea.
Yeah.
Because no matter what, you can have a vision and you can work towards a goal. But if you make it accessible and you can get some momentum with just a few families that actually really want to do this, then it can morph into whatever you want it to be. You don't have to come out of the box saying, okay, let's shoot for a private school, do all this fundraising. And
I don't-
it's so
yeah.
unattainable that you can't even get it off the ground, and then it just becomes this impossible thing with this massive budget to try to get good teachers and pay all their whole salary. It might just be what she said, like just even start smaller with a vision to do this in the future, but get the momentum.
But that's what like obviously it would have to be like, even if like let's say we had like a vision for like this like, massive thing that's that's going to be full-time developed independent campus, everything, it would obviously have to be like, that's kind of like the whatever 10-year plan, 20-year plan. It's going to start here, right? Because it just, we have facilities for it. We don't have to pay rent. We don't, it's like we have plenty of, again, my thought is mostly like, if people aren't really wanting to, and there are people that have said this, right? That like people like they don't want a school. They just want, like help homeschooling, right? It's like, then like even trying to like develop a vision for that, there's just like, it's like, there's no point in it. And then it's like, we need to pivot. We need to be like, okay, no, we need to focus primarily on, how are we going to develop a really, really robust homeschool kind of thing. Is what I'm saying kind of makes sense, at least just in the sense of like so, okay, I guess I can say this as well. Like this fall, we're planning on starting like super limited classes, like Russian. There's a lot of people that have been interested in like teaching their kids Russian because either, well, for whatever reason. So
Russian/Slavonic?
no, separate from Slavonic. We can do Slavonic as well. But no, like there's quite a few families. There's got to be a dozen kids that that they want their kids to learn Russian. So we'll do a Russian class, like most like younger kids, right? So whatever, it's like 4 to 8, and then we'll have our music classes, and like we have some plans for like some very limited classes here at the Trappers, are like once or twice a week. That's kind of like our initial step to have, I guess, gain some momentum, get some idea of what people are interested in. If there was enough people right now that were like, we would be invested in really reaching out to St. Raphael's School and seeing what extra classes we could jump on, like we could do that as well. Because again, then like we're outsourcing all the teachers, they have the teachers. It is an online thing, but again, we could gather here so that there's at least some semblance of a class with,
So it would be more of a co-op idea in the beginning. Because co-op to me is like the group co-ops, right? You're at home, but then you come in for this one class at this one time, once or twice a week.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the way it's got to be.
You could either do Zoom too. People like, it's still want
Yep.
having their kids enriched in a certain way.
See, but yeah.
Okay. And is there, I'm just thinking here of like my experience when my little ones were in a co-op preschool. There was a board, there were bylaws, there was that organized expectations of what the families were going to do and what the child is going to do.
Yeah.
All those other things. Okay.
We're working on that
Okay.
very slowly. I'm working on it.
But I think you should just go for it, build it, and we will come. Just, you have a beautiful vision, and there's people that are willing to get behind that, And
I agree.
So let's do it.
I agree. Because if you offer it up, people will look for it and then search it. And as long as you have something going.
People want clarity, they want stability.
That's what I want. I don't know how to give it.
If you present them with a vision, that they can attach themselves to. And
What's our vision?
prayer.
Oh, you already went over it.
I did. Is that it? Is that our vision? So,
Did you have like a more refined? I mean, you're kind of
no,
trying to
I
draw
haven't.
stuff out, but
I am trying to draw things out. I am. So, is it like, do you want me to reach out to St. Raphael's School and see if there's, I mean, who has kids in 1st to 5th grade here? How many, you guys have 2, 1, 3, 4, 5. How many do you have? 6. 5th might be too old to get, does anyone know how many other, like, 1st to 5th graders there are? Of people interested? Where are they?
It's summer.
All right, my suggestion then is to I have the contact for the lady who runs the Orthodox portion of this, of St. Raphael, that runs St. Raphael's School, and I can ask her about what classes for like the 1st, 5th graders kind of are. What I know they have a cost. I don't know what their cost is, but what their tuition would be, and then should I just advertise? If something comes of that, should I just advertise it and see what people respond to? What should I do? Tell me what I should do.
I think you should come up with just a general, like, okay, we're thinking about offering, pre-K or K through 4 and through St. Raphael, and we're gonna meet in 2 weeks. In a week. I wouldn't go more than 2 weeks, and people will show up because you presented them with something
All right.
they can really act on.
Maybe I could maybe talk to you about this later, or if you don't think this is something to discuss at this point, but is there any way to coordinate with the St. Raphael's School for people to learn how to do the classes, but then not have them be online?
That is an excellent question.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure they do have a program.
Yeah, because to have it be one-on-one with the teacher, I think is better.
I do too, yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
I think I would just put it out there right now. If there's anybody interested in holding those age groups, I would be interested in doing a kindergarten or pre-K.
You would?
Early.
As in you're volunteering? Okay, excellent. Who else is willing to be a volunteer time and effort? I'm already taxing Shane's time and effort.
I can volunteer depending on the schedule.
Yeah.
For part of the day. It depends on, just let me know what the schedule is and I can let you know if I can volunteer.
I think this is going to be an issue with Alaskans. I think an issue with Alaskans doing schools in Alaska is that everyone kind of has their own life stuff that they're doing. And so that's like difficult to be consistent with stuff. So it is a concern that I have.
Yeah, that's understandable.
I think the hybrid is a good way to start.
Yeah.
So you do 2 or 3 days here and then,
See how it goes.
together.
All right. I like that. I will reach out to St. Raphael's and I will. Should I get people's contact information? Should I just post it on Facebook? I've been posting about this for like 2 weeks or 3 weeks on Facebook though, and people were saying that people didn't know about it. So I even invited people, and they told me later they're like, I didn't know about it.
You can articulate now kind of where you're going.
is this
So
on
you
St.
just-
Tikhon's Facebook or on?
Yeah.
Google's?
No, it's on St. Tikhon's.
Can you put it in all the parishes?
What's that?
Bulletins, can you put it in all the parishes?
I did put it in. Yes.
Email and text are the best way to reach me. media.
Right.
Like the plague.
On Facebook.
God bless it.
So, like the website, and the app, I think
I like
are
the
better communication than Facebook.
Yeah.
Well, the app doesn't work for me. I have an iPhone 7 and it just died. Like I
Oh,
can't,
it doesn't work for you?
it does not work.
What?
I have my phone and it works
All right.
fine.
Well, it's an iPhone 17.
Maybe you need somebody to filter.
Does anyone have any questions, thoughts, concerns, complaints, fistfights?
For this, what about writing a website for this specific project?
We're working on it.
Yeah.
Worked on.
He wants to help fundraising. I put it like.
Come up with a name.
Yeah, what's our name?
Need ideas for a name.
Who's a patron? It's a patron of our school. Saint Tikhon?
Saint Sergius, because he's,
Saint Sergius.
supporter of.
We can have houses also. We could just make it like we could have different houses with different patron saints for the different houses, different grades with yeah. Look, there's lots of stuff we can do, but we got to get started with something. I want help. This is what I'm trying to say, guys. Help me.
I'm trying to. Where's the survey? Just keep telling me all the things I used to do.
Yeah. Start with the survey and a name.
Okay, like the survey. What questions am I supposed to ask?
We'll ask about what is a good name for the school.
Okay, good question.
I learned something important. It's just sitting here. The difference between people that want a full-time school so that they can work versus those that want. And then there's people say, I just want Bible school. Fine with that. I want my kids there.
All right, another question for the survey. What do you want?
Find a needy fellow. Find a need. Yeah.
That's what we're trying to do.
I would say for the survey, though, for the names, I would give suggestions of what the best would be versus what do you want, because that opens a little bit too much.
Oh no, I get to decide. So I'm having too many options.
No, which ones do you like better? Because I learned with polls and surveys like that, you have to be, in a sense, direct, say, like with a kid, I don't mean to call anybody immature, but be A or B, but this is what you get, so.
Is there?
And then once you find a core group that you think is enough to build something around, then you sell that charter membership. And I'll buy a charter membership even though I don't have kids. You get that core group that she's talking about.
So yeah, we got.
Or discounts, or special incentives to people that are those people that buy the tile. On the floor.
We need to replace the tiles here. We can.
Give them incentives.
Roman, you look like you have a very thoughtful look. Do you have?
Saying, like when you want to start offering classes in computer programming and high school level mathematics, hopefully I'll be done with my own master's degree by then, and I'll have maybe a little bit of time.
We do have like for the high school.
Teach, but
For the high school people, we have a lot of teachers. Adam is also offered to. He's like, I don't know if I can teach the elementary school.
Well, I think for me, I would love school, but also I'm in education, I'm in youth education where I work, and I'll be in elementary, so I don't know where I'm going with this, but if I had the opportunity and the time and ability, I would participate, My kids are too little right now, but
Yeah.
in a couple of years, like 3 years, and my first one will be old enough for school, and in that time frame. And if there was a way, I work during the day, my husband works through the day and the evening, so, I would participate as I can.
Sounds good.
With the phones, call people and do a poll. It's like.
Yeah.
Likes that sort of thing, but.
It's always effective, though.
It gets right to the point, and I guess.
I don't know. Should I come to Holy Transfiguration and ask Father Vasily to do a presentation on Holy Transfiguration or something?
yeah.
Yes.
No, you're gonna do a presentation at Holy Transfiguration? Or you
about
have
the school.
him-
Yeah, no, I would do it. I don't know how, I don't know.
Do you know how to make
Should I not do a presentation on Holy Trinity? Are you telling me I shouldn't do? It's like, no, it's not going to be helpful,
I
Father.
don't know yet, Father. Do you know how to make a PowerPoint?
Yes, but what am I supposed to put in it? I actually have like 5 PowerPoints.
Well, you can start with the 7.
I have that one. I just didn't know if that was going to be like what people were.
It seems
Well, then,
It took me a while to remember astronomy. Yeah,
yeah, just have your notes organized.
it's my bane. It's the bane of my.
PowerPoint.
It's the bane of my.
Just a brief description of what a classical education is.
Yeah,
What does it mean to put Orthodox in front of that? What's
Yeah.
the kind of
Your mission statement.
vision, your mission statement, and then a set of adults that are committed to that vision that want to start meeting on a regular basis.
cultivating a life in Christ so that the children will love Christ, and then they will know what to do. I mean, what you're always.
How to act.
That's all you have to say at your presentation.
Really?
No, I mean.
No, I genuinely, like, I honestly, actually, I'm terrible at this. I'm learning as I go. I really, I've.
Simple, just a simple presentation of that vision of incorporating the life of the church with the life of the school,
Yeah.
with the life of the soul, you know, that to coordinate that with education, that's the goal.
Yeah.
Who is interested, you know? Just not
Okay.
go into too much detail, but just talk about the vision.
Do it 10 times.
I'll talk with Father Vasily about
Yeah.
trying to find a time I can do it at St. and then
2
the
days a week.
Cathedral and maybe at St. Juvenalis.
2 days a week, and depending on how many people are interested, you know, it can grow from that, but. just
Yeah,
keep it real.
okay.
Talk about the vision more than anything else, yeah.
Sounds good. Can
If you want to put it together a presentation, I would be happy to, you know, listen to your presentation and give you.
good, yeah.
Put it together.
Got to do it 10 times before it'll come out right once, right?
We'll all come and fill in the empty seats. Good show.
I'm just to do a dry run with somebody.
Yeah.
To prepare.
So I need everyone's contact information and everyone's contact information that isn't here, or at least a way of sending a link to the survey, and then also information about whatever we come up with St. Raphael's. So I obviously can do my church. Is there a contact person at Holy Transfiguration? I mean, I could just send it to Father Vasily, but sometimes it's better to have someone that's rather than official, like rather, you know, texting people groups and stuff like that.
Well, I could talk to Melania, you know, because we have a list of a lot of people for our.
Oh, that's good.
So
yeah.
maybe
And
Melania.
I could also, I ran a mother and child group
Okay.
a couple years ago, and we.
And then
CD.
David and Elizabeth, I can probably use them as the contact for the cathedral.
So you can give him your contact list from your mother and child group. Yeah. Yeah.
Alrighty. Sounds like a plan. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Sun is shining.
Isn't that a good sign?
Yes.
Like it's a, obviously this is a blessed endeavor.
Very promising.
Well, if there's nothing else, then I say we say a prayer and eat the rest of the pizza. It is truly meet you, blessing of Theotokos, ever blessed and most good and Mother of God, more honorable than the cherubim, and more glorious beyond compare the seraphim. Without corruption, thou beingest birth to God the Word. Truth Theotokos, we magnify thee. Amen. Thank you for coming. For those that attended, and I will be in contact, as they say.